the YouTube and Facebook. So please feel free to invite your friends and colleagues. Let them be part of this discussion. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to the President-elect. He will now give us the welcome remarks. Over to you, P.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am not the President-elect. He is unavoidably absent. I'll be standing in for him. Your President-elect is Dr. James Edet. He's stuck in another function. He will be joining us shortly. In the interim, we have carefully curated today's topic. I believe it is something that we need to be attentive about and focus on. There's a saying that you always follow the money. So having found this oil, it is imperative that we know how to follow the money so that full value is realized for all stakeholders. I envisage that this is going to be a very, very interesting topic. Our speaker for today is Mr. Mascot Ogunjemiyo. He's actually the NAPE Financial Secretary. He is a very, very well-versed financial practitioner, and he has the practical geoscience knowledge commingled with the financial background to give us a very, very interesting topic. And with this, I bid you all a warm welcome, and I hand this over to the chairman to do a thorough introduction of our guest speaker for today. Please enjoy.
Thank you, Madam President. We probably want to recognize the presence of our fellows, BOT members, former AC members, as well as our past presidents. I can see them, they've all logged on. You're all welcome to today's event. Okay, let's go ahead and introduce the speaker for today's technical meeting.
Sorry, you have to introduce the chairman. The chairman.
Okay. Yeah, the chairman is no other person than Nosa Amorojan. He's a past president and a fellow of our great association. Nosa is a director of national companies and independents, Schlumberger companies, Nigeria and West Africa. As you all are aware, Nosa is currently a candidate for AAPG VP Regions election that is currently ongoing. So, Nosa, you're welcome. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Emeka. Just to be clear, my position is Executive Director for Schlumberger Companies in West Africa. So National Directorate and National Oil Companies is one of the divisions under the unit. Having said that, it is with great pleasure that I'm happy to chair this occasion. It's the second time I'll be chairing the NAPE session in the last 1 month. And coincidentally, the speaker for today's event is someone that I have a very, very special attachment and relationship with. I haven't been part of his journey and his story from when he embarked on this stockbroking path. And over the years, he's distinguished himself and is now what you call one of the few authorities when it comes to investment stockbroking in the oil and gas sector. His name, like has been rightly said, is Femi Mascot. He is a geologist with over 22 years cognate experience. He's had very diverse work experience. He's worked in the service sector and he's worked in a national oil company. And today he's what you now call an entrepreneur. One of those Nigerians taking the bull by the horns and trying to make a difference to set a new path within the sector. He is the pioneer Chief Executive Officer of Priori Energy Limited, and he is a geophysicist of note. He will today be sharing a mixture of his experience from the stockbroking, from the financial sector, and to the hydrocarbon, oil and gas sector. Hydrocarbon computing, as you all know, is a very topical conversation, and it's a very, very apt time to revisit that conversation. Without wanting to steal his thunder, I'll introduce Femi to you to please come on stage and come to the and start his presentation. After his presentation, I'll give a summary of the topic, and we open for discussion. So once again, join me as I welcome Femi Mascot, our guest speaker for the month of March, who will be speaking on petroleum resources management systems for efficient and transparent hydrocarbon accounting. I want to appeal to you, please, if you have questions, try and hold on to your questions. By the time we're finished, we'll moderate how we take on the questions. Mascots, please come up with your presentation.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can I share my screen now? Can I?
You can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the President of NAPE, our fellows, and all protocols duly observed. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share this session, to share some part of my knowledge in the oil and gas, combined with the financial sector. With you. Yeah, my name is Femi. Is not known by so many people. The known names are some Mascot Ogunjemio. Yeah. So what I intend to share today is, let me put on slideshow. Right, I hope everyone can see my screen. Yeah. So the Petroleum Resource Management System is a document that have been there in the public domain that a lot of people don't pay attention to. It is a document that enables us to have a global guidelines for reporting of petroleum resources. Yeah, as we know, some people will say we mix up resources and reserve, mixing up, okay, what is developed, what is proved, so what is behind the pipe. You have a lot of these terminologies that are not properly streamlined. So what the sponsors of petroleum resource management has done is to put up a document that enable the proper accounting, the proper documentation, and the guideline. They define every term accurately as possible, and provide the flexibility for the documentation of our oil and gas resources and reserve. So I will quote Mr. McKelvey. Sorry. I will quote Mr. McVelly, who said quantities of usable resources is not fixed, but changes with progress of science, technology, exploration, and we shift in economic condition. That, as the economic condition is changing, and also the technology is changing, the PRS-MS, the Petroleum Resource Management System sponsors, they review the document to fit in line with the changes in technology going forward. So the last revision was done in 2008, June, So that's 2018 June. So the last revision is very current. And so it's a document that I will advise everybody have access to copy of it, and always use it as reference material whenever there is argument between users. So the sponsors of this laudable document are SP, World Petroleum Congress, the American Association of Petroleum Geologists, that's the AAPG, for which NAPE is an affiliate. Then the Society of Petroleum Evaluators. Then you have the SCG also as a sponsor. And I understand there are more bodies, international bodies that have also sponsored and endorsed the document. So what is the primary reason, the rationale behind the document? Is to create a set of evaluation and reporting standard that will ensure consistency, transparency, reliability, comparability between projects, and also provide common reference for the international industry, for the international petroleum industry, including national reporting and all regulatory disclosure, including those required by SEC. So the stakeholder that these documents address is oil and gas companies, that's the NOC and the IOC, and the small independent oil and gas companies. So employees are also stakeholders, government agencies are stakeholders, government agencies are also stakeholders. Sorry for the mix of the public, the general public, security exchanges, like I don't know if locally here we're not yet using it, but you find out that it's used by SEC in the United States, and it's also used by the regulators in the UK and other international regulators globally. Then investors, we as investors and financiers, they all reference this document. So all stakeholders require consistent and transparent reporting of future production, reserve, and associated cash flow. So this document provides a balance that enable all this to be done. So now the first thing that the document tries to define and clarify is the difference between the resources and terminologies, reserve and resources. So resources and reserve. Resources refer to everything recoverable and unrecoverable, everything about the petroleum, about the resources, petroleum resources under the ground, those that could be recovered and unrecoverable, whether discovered or undiscovered, whether conventional or non-conventional, is termed petroleum resources. But reserve is distinctly different from resources. Reserve are quantities of petroleum anticipated to be commercially recoverable by applicable development project to known accumulation from a given date forward. Note that a given date forward. So reserve is a thing that will be recovered in future. Reserve must further satisfy 4 criteria. 1, they must be discovered. That is what you call it. Reserve have been discovered. They must be recoverable. That is, you can recover it with the current technology. Then they must be commercial. So if something is not commercial, it's not big enough, it's not reserve, right? So then, and it's also it must be remaining. So what is already produced is not part of reserve. So to capture what is already produced as part of reserve, another terminology is used, which is the ultimate recovery, estimated ultimate recovery. So the estimated ultimate recovery also captures the quantity that's already produced from the ground plus the remaining reserve. So when we talk about reserve now, the reserve could be developed and undeveloped. An undeveloped reserve are quantities expected to be recovered through future investment from one, new wells. So if before something is undeveloped, that means the current wells that are available cannot recover it. So you require new wells on the acreages of known accommodation. You require deepening of existing well, or it requires some infill, additional infill to recover them. Where a relatively large expenditure is also is needed compared to the cost of drilling. So you also have to, it could be part things, investment that you need to invest on transportation facility and production facility. So that also make it a undeveloped reserve. So because we find a situation whereby people, once they drill, have a development plan, they capture everything within the acreage, within the field as reserve. It's necessary. It's not necessary. All the petroleum, the discovered reserve may not necessarily be developed. So part of it is undeveloped. The one that you are not you can't produce with the wells that are available in that field are not developed reserves. They are undeveloped reserves. So now we talk about developed reserves. So there are different terminologies that also guide the developed reserve. So the first terminology we look at there is developed reserve. Developed reserve are expected to be recovered from existing wells. So the developed reserve include those behind the pipes, and also include improved recovery reserve. They are considered developed only after the necessary equipment have been installed. Note that only after the necessary equipment have been installed, or when the cost to do so are relatively minor. So when you have only very little amount to spend, then you can categorize that as part of the reserve. Developed reserve may be further classified into producing and non producing. So sometimes you develop it because of the market condition for one reason or the other, you may not produce any, so you just develop them and cap them there. So develop producing reserves, they are expected to be recovered from completion interval that are open and producing at the time of the estimate. So it's current. So improved recovery reserve are considered producing only after the improved recovery project is in operation. So if the recovery project is not in operation, so the recovery reserve is not classified as a reserve. Developed non-producing reserve include shorting and behind the pipe reserve. Those reserves that are shorting and behind the pipe, they are developed but not producing. So shorting reserve are those that are shorting maybe because of a security problem, especially in this part of the world. Those that are maybe the facility, you are revamping your facility, so you short it for that reason. Completion interval, which are open at the time of the estimate, or which have not yet started producing. So you have developed it, but you have not yet producing it for one reason or the other. So the reserve behind the pipe are expected to be recovered from zone in existing wells, which will require additional completion work or feature the completion prior to start of production. So if you have a reserve, those ones that are, sometimes when you drill a well, you drill it through so many pay zones. So if you have not complete that pay zone, then it's said to be behind the pipe. It's not developed. Sorry, it's developed, but it's behind the pipe. So you also classify reserves based on certainty scenario. So now, because the hydrocarbon we're looking at is inside the ground, we can't see exactly what is there. There's a lot of uncertainty that guides it. So the idea of the word proof, probable, and possible reserve help us to tell our investors the degree of uncertainty that is attached to the resources that we're talking about, or the reserve we're talking about. So proof reserve are quantities of petroleum which by analysis of geoscience and engineering data, that is, you have analyzed your data, your geoscience, your petroleum engineering, your reservoir data, are reasonable. You have reasonable certainty to be commercially recoverable, that those reserves, with the data you have looked at, the geoscience and all the other data you have looked at, you can commercially recover it. So it's proven with reasonable certainty. So that's P1 reserve. And it's also the 90%, you have the probability, or the what we call the confidence limit of 90%. So it's almost certain that you can get out this portion of your resources, so for sale in the market. So that's what we call proved reserve. Probable is the one that you have 50% certainty that you can get it out. So it refers to a P2 reserve. The probability, the chance that you will recover that reserve is equal or is equal to 50% probability. So possible reserve is the range of uncertainty is higher now. So that you will recover it is 10% certainty that you will recover it. So the confidence limit here is very low, and it's the P3 reserve. So the petroleum resource document also help us to categorize between contingency resources, what you call contingency resources, and prospective resources. So contingent resources are those quantity of petroleum estimated as of a given date to be potentially recoverable from known accumulation by application of development projects, but which are not currently considered to be commercially recoverable due to one or more contingencies. Such contingencies will include regulatory, it could include security, it could include market conditions. So they are contingencies. So you are not sure you will recover it. It may be large though, but based on the environment, that's why you have a situation whereby you have, like in the deep water, maybe in the Gulf of Mexico, you have about 150 million barrels. It can be a reserve, but unfortunately, in this part of the world, in deep water, 150,000 barrels is a contingent resource. So that's just a simple analogy of what it is. Prospective resources, they are those quantities of petroleum which are estimated as of a given date to be potentially recoverable from undiscovered accumulation. So prospective, those of us that are geoscientists, which majority of NAPE members are. So when we estimate these resources in one way or the other, but we have not proven it, we have not drilled a well to prove the resources. So it is a prospective resource. So it is not a reserve. So that's it. So potentially recoverable, but it is not yet discovered. Then there's a way the system also give a guideline on how to categorize your maturation when you are maturing a project or opportunity, like you have gone to a new basin, maybe like those in, I think a frontier environment here would be maybe offshore Dahomey Basin, in which case you have a place. So when you just have an opportunity, maybe you have look at the petroleum system and you have a lot of opportunity, you call it, you have a play. So for a play, that means you still need to acquire a lot of data. Maybe you do seismic acquisition, you do a lot of other bench work for the play to become mature. Once the play becomes clear, you have acquired this data. So you mature the play to leads. So leads, you now have maybe the geological structure is becoming clearer, but not perfectly clear. You still need some data to confirm that what you have there. So when you now have enough data to de-risk the opportunity further, so it becomes a prospect. So a prospect is what you have, what is drillable, what you can spend money, your drilling money on. So that's a prospect. So geologists mature the opportunity from a play to a lead and then to a prospect. Oh, I'm sorry. So the uncertainty research scenario, we try to put it in a table clearly. So when you have reserve, when you have reserve, you talk about P1, P2, and P3, right? When it contingent resources, you talk about 1C. Sorry, for the reserve, is when it's low, that is now you are using a deterministic method for your estimation. So you in the deterministic method, you say low, best estimate, which some people will call base, and then you have your high. So when you are talking about reserves now, then you talk about 1P, 2P, and 3P. When you are talking of contingent resources, is it contingent? That is, there is no clear commerciality. Yes, you are not bringing it on board very soon. So you talk about 1C, 2C, 3C. Then for prospective, maybe they are still on exploration opportunity. Then you talk about 1U, 2U, 3U. So if you look at the annual report, the filings of some of these oil companies, you will be seeing some of this categorization in their filings. In some cases, you see the reserve are properly categorized. You have your 1P, you have your 2P, you have your 3P, you have your 1C, your 2C, your 3C. And also you will see some of them will even go as far as explaining what is categorizing what is behind the pipe, and that you need some investment. So they might be seeking looking for funding to develop or to bring to production what is behind the pipe. So this is a pictorial representation of the classification process. You have your total petroleum initially in place that cover everything, both conventional, unconventional, develop, undiscovered. So everything is captured by this diagram. So you have the probability of commerciality going up as you move from prospective resources. In your prospective resources, you still have low, you have your best estimate and your high estimate. And you have a line, some of them are prospective is not yet discovered. So contingency, you have discovered it, right? But you probably you haven't found the technology is not ripe enough, or the environment is not conducive enough. The economic scenario is not conducive enough to bring them to production. So they are contingent. So then you move to the upper part, which is your reserve. So reserve, part of it you are producing. So your best estimate is your P90. P90 tallies with 1P. That's your proof. Then probable, which is P2. So these are incremental scenarios that you have. Proof plus probable give you 2P, and proof plus probable plus possible give you 3P, and that represents your P10. Your P2 represents your P50, which is the 50% probability. Then your P1 represents your P90. Usually your lenders, especially the bank, they lend you money on P90 most of the time. The venture capitalists and institutional investors can lend you money based on P50. So, but lenders, the bank will most of the time only lend you based on P90 reserve. So we also look at the classification system based on project maturation. Like I have said, this is a cartoon that gives you a very clear picture of the progress of maturation. You know, you have your unrecoverable, but now you have prospective resources. Your prospective resources, you mature it from play to lead, then to prospect. Then if you discover something, then it becomes a contingent resource. So when the development is not viable, for some of this contingency, the development may not be viable. For some of that development, so could be put on hold. Like now, because of the uncertainty in our environment, the people are waiting for the new Petroleum Act, which we're hoping will come on stream before the end of this year. So a lot of the development projects are put on hold because of the uncertainty in the environment. So they are all contingent resources. I will say Owowo is still a contingent resource for ExxonMobil, which is a very, although it's a very big one, but they have put the project on hold for so long. So it shouldn't be, it may have dropped off from their reserve booking. They may have dropped it to contingency for now, unless the situation become better, then it will go back to reserve. Because right now, I don't think they really have a clear timeline to develop the reserve. So when it's already justified for development, maybe development plan is already approved, then it's a reserve. So, and it's commercial, it's going to go into production. The same way we do for oil, the same thing is applicable to gas. So it could be sub-commercial. You can see the other side is, then it's commercial. Reserve is completely commercial, while contingency may be sub-commercial. Then this is the mathematical representation. You see the probability view. Your P90 is that you can recover a P90, 90% chance. That's your proof. Less than that, you have your probable and possible. So remember, when you are categorizing, if you need to put the already produced reserve, please always refer to it as ultimate recovery, not reserve. Then the guideline also provide the acceptable analytical procedure for estimating our recoverable. So the analytical procedure, you have to find a way of defining your volume and estimating your volume accurately. So pre and post discovery, the analytical method you use is analogy. You use analogy, that is, you find analog reserve where you don't have enough data, you have not drilled the well, or you drill the well, you are not able to do extended well test that gives you enough information. So especially in the Niger Delta, we have a lot of analog where we have porosity reservoir information that you can compare the same environment, you can compare the properties, the parameters, so that will enable you to estimate, to have a reasonable estimate of your discovery. So you use volumetric estimation. Then the most accurate methods are after production commences. So you use material balance. You have the opportunity to use material balance method. You have the opportunity to do production decline analysis and do simulation modeling. Each of these procedures can utilize deterministic and probabilistic estimates. We do deterministic, but you find out that the probabilistic estimate is usually more accurate, because the other one, the deterministic, is more of a judgment, individual judgment. So some of the commercial, we're moving to the commercial part now. So a lot of things come up, people talk about economic interest. So the document also provides guidance on what is economic interest, what is economic limit, what is and so many other commercial definitions that we guide the investors and financiers and even employee of company, for them to know what their company is doing with the resources. So economic interest is possessed in any case in which an investor has acquired an interest in mineral in place and secures by any form of legal relationship revenue derived from an extraction of the mineral, to which he must look for a return on his capital. So you have make a purchase, maybe like the last marginal feed round, that by which people are now asked to pay some signature bonus. So they are trying to gain economic interest into that. So when you buy like the TNOG just bought OML 17 that from Shell. So they just acquired the 45% economic interest, which used to belong to Shell, Total, and Achip. That's so they got the economic interest in that. So economic limit is defined as the production rate beyond which the net operating cash flow after royalty or share of production owing to others from a project, which may be an individual well, lease. So when your resource, when the production you are getting, the cash flow you are getting from a production become negative after the removal of royalty and other things that belong to other people. If it is negative, then you know your feed has gone to the limit, so you can no longer sustain production. So you are on a shutdown mode. Then another things that also define the economic limits is if you are holding a license that have an expiry date, even if you still have reserve. So the end of that license is also an economic limit for that field. Then commerciality. What defines a commercial project? The reserve may be huge, but it may not be commercial. A project is commercial when the essential social, environmental, and economic conditions are met, including political, legal, regulatory, and contractual conditions, and commitment to develop and place the accumulation on production within a reasonable time frame. So that means usually 5 years. So commercial, you must have a plan to develop or to bring to production. And reasonable time frame defined by the document is 5 years. If it's longer than 5 years, then it is not commercial. So a longer time frame could be applied where development of economic projects are deferred at the option of the producer for market-related reasons, especially the big Owowo, which is a very big opportunity. You know, over 500 million barrels is delayed because of the surrounding situation. PIB license will soon expire, negotiations going on, so they might still not drop it up because the conditions are still being negotiated or whatever. So it could be related to local conditions and contractual and strategic objectives. So we have a lot of such projects in Nigeria that could be commercial, but they have been in the commercial arena for so long, but some of them may end up dropping up if the atmosphere did not change. So royalty, people will be asking, what is this royalty? Yeah, royalty refers to payment that are due to host government or leaseor having access to petroleum resources. Royalty can be in cash or in kind. In this part of the world, I think royalty is paid in kind. So a lot of time people also ask the question, what is working interest? So working interest, a company's equity interest in a project before reduction for royalty. So working interest, if you have a working interest in an asset, it includes the royalty that you're going to pay to government. So that means working interest is like a gross, is a gross interest that you have in production. But as an investor, what you should be interested in, it should be net working interest. So because if you are investing in a company, especially as an equity investor, if you are investing at debt, you may not bother too much about you may go for the working interest. But if you are investing as an equity investor, the net working interest is very, very important. So because that is what comes to the company after paying royalty and other interest in the assets. So the net working interest is what you always ask that question. Like when some people were asking me whether to invest in transport because of the last the deal of OML 17, but since I couldn't find out, it is not yet very clear to me what the interest, the networking interest of transport is in that deal, or what percentage of transport is in TONG. So I couldn't give that necessary advice on that opportunity. So carried interest. So you find out that in a situation, in so many situations, some investors, some equity interest holder or people that have working interest in an asset, particularly some government, they could not pay for their own portion of the cost of developing that asset. So somebody has to carry them. So in that situation, you have a carry agreement in place for which the operator most of the time carry the other party. So they bear all the cost of developing the assets. So there's a process they put in place to recover the cost before from the production that come from the asset. So the document also dealt clearly on how to handle cash flow in evaluating what you have in the resources. So project-based cash flow input parameters should include, so these are the parameters listed here are the parameters that you need to include when handling your project cash flow. You must have a production profile which comes from the reservoir engineer or the petroleum engineer. You must have a estimated cost of capital, because your source of funding could be mixed. Maybe part of them are equity, part of them are debt. So you need to have the cost of capital that you're using, so that what a lot of people refer to as WACC, or in this industry, it is also referred to as your hurdle rate. So whereby you know the mix of capital you are putting in place in that regard. So your estimated operating expenses, you must estimate your operating expenses. That's you do a forecast of it. Then you must estimate environmental liability. So you must also estimate your environmental liability, those that have to do with safety and abandonment. So you must put abandonment as part of your cost. So although in the past, I don't think that is done in Nigeria, but people that abide by this document, this global guideline, they need to make sure that all those things are accounted for and forecast appropriately. Then you need to forecast price, inflation, and other macroeconomic indicators. You can get those from your economics or from your advisors. Then you estimate your revenue. So based on the upper parameters, that help you to estimate your revenue. That's from your production and the price forecast you have made. Then you also estimate project life. So, and your project life must not exceed your entitlement period. So that's why a lot of the companies, because they are international companies, so they are weary of starting any project going forward, because a lot of those leases are expiring. So they will not be able to put that on unless there is a new agreement or there is a clarity on a new agreement. So those projects have to wait, because you can't estimate the life of the project. So then you use appropriate discount rate to compute your NPV. Your discount rate in this case will be your cost of capital. So future price conditions must be based on reliable data and should capture all past events. What a lot of people do, they just go to the futures market to project their prices. They go to the futures market and see what the futures market is saying, and they put an inflation condition, the escalation of 2%, and say, oh, they have done a price modeling. That is not a good price modeling. So your price modeling must include all past conditions when you are making your estimation. Please don't base your because the project you are embarking on is a long-term project. Most of the time, this project runs over 10 years period. So you need to do an estimate that capture all past events. The new price estimate I'm using for projects now is also capture the effect of COVID-19. So by that, you are able to forecast a more realistic future price for your project. So for this part, you have gas resources. A lot of people, they report their resources or reserve in terms of BOE, barrel of oil equivalent. So when you see barrel of oil equivalent reporting, is a combination of oil and gas. So converting gas volume to the oil equivalent is customarily done on the basis of the normal heating content or calorific value of the fuel. So when you are doing that, when you are making your estimate of the barrel of oil equivalent, the document have a guide for you, because people could do it in any way. So 1 barrel of oil equivalent is the same thing as 5,600 standard cubic feet of gas. So that's the barrel of oil equivalent. So the easiest way to estimate if you know what they have reported as at their oil reserve, so you just use this conversion factor to know what portion of it belongs to gas. If your operator is reporting only in BOE. So some operators are also use 1 barrel as 5,620 scoff, derived from the metric unit equivalent of 1 meter cube of oil, so which is about 1,000 meters cube of gas. Yeah, so that's basically what we have. So the document is, this is the essence of this presentation, is just to give an insight. So the document is available in the public domain for people to reference anytime. There are more details provided in the document. If you're an SPE member, I think what you just need to do is you send an email to SPE. They will automatically, within a short time, you get a response, and they send you a copy of the latest version of the document. So in concluding, like the International Financial Reporting Standard, which bring consistency to financial reporting, the Petroleum Resource Management System provides reliable, consistent, and transparent definition and classification for comparability between project and regulatory reporting. The Petroleum Resource Management System should be adopted as reference document. That's my recommendation now for industry players, including regulators and lenders. Through my life working with NMPC, one thing we always argue, like when we agree with the operators that this is an exploration well, sometimes that well, the regulator, which is the DPR, will reclassify that well as maybe a development well or an appraisal well. Sometimes they even say it will be a development well because there is no clear guideline. So always we keep on going back and forth. But if this guideline could be adopted locally for our own use, if there are other things to amend, or but there's a reference document which guides everybody, so there won't be need for going back and forth on whether this will be classified as reserve, or whether this is contingent, or whether this is exploration opportunity, or maybe it is development opportunity or not. So that will become clearer. So this document is highly recommended for adoption. Maybe NAPI, SP, local chapters, we work together and work with the regulator to remove some of these bottlenecks we have in the industry. Thank you very much. There, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mascot. This has been very, very interesting. Thank you for taking us back to school and taking us through what I want to call Petroleum Economics or Petroleum Reserves Management 001. It's been a very, very interesting presentation. So I'll just within 5 minutes try to summarize the quick highlights of your presentation before we open room for questions or comments. What you have done today basically is to efficiently and very well thoroughly do a fantastic summary of the guidelines for evaluation of petroleum resources, petroleum reserves management. Key points I made from because of your presentation was interesting to say that this effort was probably informed by the need for governments, lenders, investors, and producers to have access to what can be called a very consistent and reliable reserve resource assessment in a format that will be communicable, undisputed, and everybody can be on the same page when it comes to align and classification. I mean, you ended up by giving a very concise and clear example of some inconsistency and lack of clarity that has existed between government agencies when it comes to classifying reserves and wells. And such exercise in return come at a very big cost to the taxpayer. So you started by saying PRMS is a system developed for the consistent and reliable definition, classification, and estimation of hydrocarbon reserves, and that a good PRMS should be a good reference, or like a good Bible, a must-go resource for oil companies, employees, government agencies, the public, the security regulator, investors, and financial institutions. You don't take us through very interesting breakdown of what contains the document by showing clearly the difference between resources and reserves. We were made to understand that resources are those that are recoverable and unrecoverable, naturally occurring, discovered and undiscovered, where reserves are discovered, recoverable, commercial resources. So that's the difference. And then you let us know about the terms like estimated unrecoverable reserves, undeveloped reserves. And then went a step further by showing us the different types of developed reserves to range from developed to producing to non-producing and behind the pipe reserves. And then you continuously remind us of the need to make sure that we are very familiar with the buzzwords like proven reserves, probable reserves, possible reserves. It was interesting to see the difference between contingency resource and prospective resources. And then it was a good reminder as well, going back to Economics 001, to see a refresh of the deterministic classifications such as 1P, 2P, 3P, 1C, 2C, 3C, 1U, 2U, 3U. And I particularly like the schematic presentation that you showed to us on the resource classification, the project maturation stage, and the rate of uncertainty. And in conclusion, you went and you were clearly showed the difference between what an economic interest is and economic limit. Economic interest is what you acquire. Economic limit is the one that helps to define the viability of a resource, either by its nearness to expiration or at what point the production nets or becomes negative, the cash flow becomes negative. You talked about royalties, working interest, net working interest, and carried interest. And in conclusion, you were very, very emphatic that PRMS should be adopted as a reference document for the industry. If this is done, there will be lots more clarity in how we address and classify reserves. And this effort, this process has been made possible by leading professional bodies such as SPE, AAPG, and SEG. So it cuts across the entire industry, supported by the World Petroleum Congress. So that's how you concluded. It's been a very, very interesting presentation. And before we open up for questions, I'll probably want to fire the first one and ask this question. With the dwindling shift focus from E&P to renewable, how efficient, effective, and reliable will can a cash flow forecast for projects be? Because I mean, we are beginning to see that there's less access to produce, to explore and develop fossil fuels, and now the conversation seems to be tending towards renewable. So, I mean, how will this impact current investors in their bid to efficiently forecast their cash flow over, say, a period of the next 5-10 years? That's my first salvo question before I hand over to Emeka to moderate the questions.
So, can I answer this question now? Before you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, the need, that is why we have the need, there is need for this transparency and clarity in reporting. So when things are clear and everybody know what it is easier to make your own judgment, And like I always tell people, when you still use the forecast, if you do your price forecast accurately, and to capture all the events, currently the price you should be using should also capture COVID-19 issue. Luckily, oil have been here for a very long time and has undergone different scenario of weak prices under various conditions. So, and if you model, you ensure that you follow this and model your pricing, your oil pricing scenario, such that you capture all the events. Your investors will definitely be more confident in investing. It won't thwart their interest. It will only even make them more interested in investing. Renewable will be there, but oil will still be very, very relevant in the near future. In the long term, oil will still be very, very relevant. And commodity in all commodity, because we're in the industry, a lot of the time we don't even look at this, that we're dealing with a commodity. So we look at it as if we're dealing with something else. But oil is a commodity, and every commodity undergo price shock in its lifetime continuously. So you must have a price shock within 10 years cycle, a reasonable price shock, either very low or very high price shock. And since the resources we're talking about is a capital intensive resources, so you find out that every time you develop, when there is opportunity, I mean the price is escalating, people bring in more, a lot of production that are ordinarily will not be economic. So a lot of those wells are splitter wells are brought to production. You have too much of that resources, definitely you will also have a crash. So renewable will be there, but oil will still pay its cost all the time. Oil will still pay its cost all the time, and it will still reward investors all the time. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, that's we've talked about economics and profitability. So, I mean, Emeka, you want to read out questions and take on?
Okay. No, sir. The first question is from Johnson Elu, and he's asking, what is the minimum amount an investor in oil and gas industry need to set aside from licensing to commercial production?
Yeah, you want me to take that question right away?
Yes, please.
Okay, so yeah, asking for the minimum amount to set aside for licensing, well, it doesn't have I wouldn't say this is the minimum amount, because you need to estimate what you have as your contingency resource in that field that you are trying to buy into. If you are farming if it has to do with licensing, which in this case I think you are a licensing from government in a bid round. If it has to do with a bid round, if you evaluate the asset, you have the estimated resources in that asset. Once you have the net present value of whatever, the NPV of what you have, considering your price scenario, considering your cost of capital, in this environment, maybe 15% can be your cost of capital, your hurdle rate, or what you call your WACC. So if you have that 50% and you have a net present value, then you negotiate with that net present value. You wouldn't want to pay everything as or you won't want to pay everything that as the amount you will spend on buying. If your net present value is 50 million, you can negotiate on the 50 million, maybe lower. If you are not an operator, definitely you will discount it to a much lower amount. If you are negotiating it and you're going to be an operator, then you may consider adding some premium because you will have full control of it. So I don't know if that answers your question. There is no specific amount. The amount is based on what you compute from the reserve, which you look at the commerciality, you look at every scenario, including environmental, the risk aspect. So that's why if you are buying an oil and gas in the North Sea or in Gulf of Mexico, probably you will pay premium because a lot of things are easily predictable. Or here in this part of the world, you may want to discount it because a lot of things are not predictable. So those are some of the things that come into it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mascot. Again, if you have questions, please use the Q&A, type it out so that we can take it from there. The next question is from an anonymous attendee, and is asking what is the difference between economic interest and working interest? Mascot, you can take it. Did you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. You have an economic interest in an asset where you if you buy into an asset, that's an economic interest, and you want to recover your money and at a cost of capital. So that's an economic interest. So a working interest is now specifically for a field, an oil field, a reserve. You have a reserve there. When you are producing, you are producing. I think I will say the main difference is that one is already very active. Yeah, you are producing. So what you have as net on your production after deducting royalty and payment to other investors in that the remaining become your economic interest, your working interest. Or economic interest is a more broader, it's not clearly defined. It does not really tie to exactly how much you're getting out of it. The thing is that you have spent money to buy into this asset and you want to recover your money. Does that give some clarity?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Okay, the third one, it's not a question per se. This is from Jide Ojo, FNAPE, our past president. He's just trying to bring his wealth of experience here by making this statement. He states the PRMS is a challenging terrain to navigate, but important to providing a uniform and level playing field for all operators. It is important to clarify that petroleum accounting deals, on the other hand, with produce reserves and careful documentation of volumes in all producing facilities. This is from Jide Ojo, FNAPE and our past president. So let me go to the next question. It's from Julius Adesun. Say, please, I'm just curious about how reserves are booked for alternative energy attract investors, unlike oil and gas reserves. Mascot, over to you, please.
Yeah, can you repeat that question for me, please?
He's just curious about how reserves are booked for alternative energy.
Okay, alternative. Okay, I get that. Alternative energy, like a solar. Solar. Yeah. So for solar, your reserve in solar will be the what's it called? Your panels. So what your panel can give you in terms of reserve. So oil and gas, we talk about reserve. The alternative energy, solar, wind. When you talk about wind, so wind is, as you all know, is not consistent. So what you will book as your reserve in wind energy is the average, the average wind speed for that environment. So you don't use the peak, for the wind. So you use the average. So I'm not an expert in alternative energy, but I can, as a resource economist, I can do more on that. I really appreciate your curiosity, and that has challenged me to do some work on reserve for renewable. Maybe it will be a new terminology here. Thank you very much, Julius, for that question. Maybe anybody in the panel want to shed some more light on that? I will appreciate.
Okay, as we wait for more questions to roll in, I will advise that we wait after the presentation. We have a couple of important announcements to make. The president will be presenting to us the AC members, the new AC members, advisory council members. We probably have some announcements regarding our upcoming conference, and the YP has some announcements to make as well. So please wait after the presentation to get those announcements. That's all I have from the Q&A. I don't know if anybody has any other thing to add. So in the absence of any other question, I'll hand it over to the chairman to conclude the presentation section of this meeting.
Yeah, thank you once again, Emeka, and Mascot, thank you once again for what I've called taking us back, reminding us, like I usually say, that we find ourselves in the business of E&P, and very too often we focus on exploration and production. So today it's good to look at the economics and profitability part of it, look at factors that hinder, influence and impacts how economic decisions are made to eventually affect the profitability of ventures. It's important, and my charge in NAPE basically is that you should take this up. It's important that we get to that level whereby we are able to have a standardized, uniform reporting format for measuring, delineating hydrocarbon in the country. And once you have that, it goes a long way in establishing consistency, in adding value and credibility to the reserves we carry, and at the same time, just further boosting investors' confidence, especially at a time whereby there is suddenly a trend. There is a trend to try as much as possible to now twist the conversation of what I normally call energy dependence into energy independence. And if we do not play in that space very well to get our reporting right, it may eventually impact how we are able to consistently defend what we have and be able to challenge what we say we have. Having said that, it's been a very, very interesting conversation. It's been a very interesting presentation, and it's been very, very thoroughly incisive. Mascot, thank you very much, and wish you all the best. And do not relent in your effort in championing this particular unique journey of ensuring that you work with professional bodies locally to have what I'll call a fit for purpose reporting format that will mirror the reserves we have within and across the petroliferous basins in Nigeria. On that note, I want to hand over back to NAPE officials. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's go straight to the few announcements we have here. Tunde will be projecting. Tunde. Yes, Madam President, over to you, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for staying the course with us. As part of our governance process, NAPE has the executive, which I heard, and some members are here present. We have statutory by the Constitution. We have an advisory council that should have a tenure for 3 years. And then on top of that, we have a board of trustees. That is the way the governance structure for NAPE is handled. The tenure for the last advisory council expired in December 2020. So I am pleased to announce that we have reconstituted the advisory council, and our tenure will be from 2021 to 2023, effective March 1. I'm also delighted to announce that Dr. Ebio Mashola is going to be the chairman of that council, and Mrs. Doja Ojelabi, Mr. Alex Taka, Dr. Daniel Lambert Aikiobare, Dr. Austin Avuru, Dr. Lai Fatono, Mr. George Usahon, Mr. Abiodun Adesonya, Mrs. Patience Marcelli, Mr. Nedo Osayande, Dr. Bolade Olaleri, Mr. Abraham Udo, Mr. Aliyu Adamu, Mrs. Rosina Bashorun, Mr. Reginald Mba, and I believe Dr. Victor Ogujiofor. Please, I can't see the end of the tab. I think I have everybody. Yes, Dr. Victor Ogujiofor. They are the members of the advisory council, and their work is to advise us for things that we have, and also to help formulate a long-term forecast for the well-being of NAPE. Thank you.
Thank
Back
you.
to Emeka.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's go to the next slide. Jackson, Chris Jackson, the editor-in-chief, will take us through the announcement concerning the upcoming conference.
All right, good afternoon, the PS and everybody in attendance. It's wonderful to bring to us NAPE Conference 2021. It's a very wonderful again, and I want to let us know that 2021 conference is going to be a very unique one, and unique in its nature in the sense that last year we had a virtual conference, but 2021 we'll be doing a hybrid conference where we have the physical conference and the virtual component of it. So the date of the conference is 14th to 18th of November 2021, and the physical segment of the conference will hold at Eco Hotels and Suites. So the theme of conference for this year is petroleum exploration and production in a new world. What's next after the global crisis? So this will be the focus of the entire conference. And in analyzing this, we have a whole lot of sub-themes that papers are submitted for. So in view of that, next slide, please. All right, thank you very much. So I want to let us know that the flyer for call for abstract is out already. And as I am talking to us now, they are all on NAPE website. So we call on personal, individual, academic institution, industry players to put together their abstracts and send across to NAPE. We can see the deadline on for the submission of the abstract. Basically, the deadline is 30th, 2021. We have 8 sub-teams that we'll be considering in this year's conference. And just going through it, you can go through it completely, and we have them on the website just to save time. aspects of the conference, we do know that it's all encompassing. We have the pre-conference workshop, the pre-conference short courses, the virtual field trip, very interesting one that the plan is on top gear. And we have management sessions and a whole lot of other programs, YP program, WIGE programs, African Nights, and several programs. So I want to use this opportunity and invite you to mark the date on your calendar, put your papers together, send it across to us, and prepare to attend NAPE 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christopher Jackson. Okay, this announcement is coming from the YP in commemoration of the World Oral Health Day. They are having a webinar, an oral health webinar. The speaker for that event will be Dr. Mrs. Ade Bolube. She's a Deputy Manager, Dental Services, NNPC. The date is March 20th. Time is 10 a.m. West African time. So please, let's mark our calendar. I'm sure the flyers will be going out shortly so that we will attend and learn from it. So that is it from the YP. The next slide, please. Yes, I guess the question would be what is our relationship with AAPG? It's an affiliate organization, and I know a lot of NAPE members are equally AAPG members. So this is election time, and this time around is interesting because we have one of our own, Nosa Omorodion, past president and fellow of the Great Association, will be contesting for the position of Vice President Regions. The other contender is Alvira Gomez Hernandez. She works for CNOOC International, Colombia. So please, let's update our membership, make sure we pay our dues to enable us exercise our rights. The next slide, please. Yes, we're still calling for volunteers just to make sure that we're all involved to create value for NAPE and make sure that we are as inclusive as possible. So please visit the Secretariat for details. Secretariat will flourish you with the next thing you need to do. That is it for call for volunteers. Can we go to the next? Anyway, this is Noso Morodion's resume, quite rich. I will encourage us to reach out to him if you have further questions. So that is it. Can we move to, yes, we're all aware that NAPE in collaboration with Venus Medical have an health insurance scheme. We have different plans. Please, for those that don't have any coverage, it's advisable we leverage this just to make sure we cover ourselves and our lovely ones. Details can be found in that flyer. You can as well reach out to the Secretariat for more details. And can we move to the next slide? Yes, the e-library is finally coming. Finally, we're going to have a repository of all NAPE documents. We're currently testing it. A lot of efforts have gone through into it. So I will encourage us to be ready. And the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we are up to date with our payments. So I will encourage all of us, for those that have not paid their dues, to do so, to enable them to have access to the e-library. It's going to be very important. We're going to have access to all the NAPE publications. So please, let's avail ourselves of this opportunity by paying our dues. And finally, but not the least, can we go to the next slide, please? So again, we can't function without our dues. It's important we don't just be membership by mouth. Let's make sure we pay our dues to enable us to participate fully in the association. For corporate membership is 50,000, and active member with just 10,000 naira. please let's contact the Secretariat if you need further details as regards to membership of status and due payments. So that's all I have as announcements.
I have one more.
Huh?
I have one more.
Oh, go ahead, Madam President.
Okay, so this is to the fellows, the past presidents, the BOT members, and the AC members. I'm sure you have all received my letter talking about the NAPE Foundation and our plan to reactivate it. Please, if you do have any questions, if there's any clarification you require, please reach out to me or to Lawrence Osuagu in the NAPE Secretariat. We're trying to make sure that the foundation comes on strong, big. Thank you for your support. And that's it from me. Back to you, Emeka.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I guess we're done with the announcement, so I'll hand it over to you to give us the closing remarks and vote of thanks.
Okay. Before I close, I would want to appreciate all our NAPE members who have joined on this call, particularly our BOT members, our AC members, our fellows, our distinguished fellows, and even the student, every one of you, thank you for making out time. Without you all, there will be no NAPE. You are NAPE, and NAPE is you. We thank you all we also particularly thank the speaker who has shared from his wealth of knowledge with us, because every day we live, we must keep on learning. That is the only way we can keep evolving. I want to thank you all for your time, and I look forward to when we meet again next month. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.